Before Kill Bill, there was Lady Snowblood, the original female revenge epic. Stylish, violent, and decades ahead of its time, this 1973 classic directly inspired Tarantino, and now Ghost of Yōtei. A woman forged in tragedy, hunting her enemies one by one. Is this the ultimate samurai revenge story? Let's find out. On Nerd Legion, we are continuing our Ghost of Yōtei Inspirations series. These are the films and anime that inspired Ghost of Yōtei, the upcoming video game about to be released by Sucker Punch Productions to great fanfare. We thought it'd be fun to do this because we're going to be doing a game review with some other people on the Last Free Nation gaming channel. So if you guys want to head on over there and subscribe, that would be very helpful. We'll leave the link below for you, and you can wait. We'll do some content on historical accuracy in the game. As we're recording this, I'm actually going to Hokkaido tomorrow to climb Mount Yōtei and get a bunch of footage for this kind of content. So really going crazy. There'll be stuff on me cooking food from the game. There's this series. There's going to be a series of reviews and all kinds of content coming out for you. So I will kick off our Lady Snowblood conversation. We have previously done Kurosawa's Throne of Blood and Miike's 13 Assassins. This is the third movie in this series. All right, so I'm going to read a private text message that you sent to me.
Don't tell them the emojis
about this
I
movie.
used.
Eggplant water.
No!
You said, all right, Lady Snowblood might be one of the best films I've ever seen.
It's true.
Bold statement.
It's true. No,
it's a great movie.
I think this is a movie that in my pantheon of films is one of the ones that's right up there with like a near perfect film. I've never said a film is a perfect film, but I think Lady Snowblood is one of the ones I've seen that gets pretty close, just in terms of visuals, storytelling, acting, pacing, weaving in like cool outside of the movie elements within the movie elements. Like it really is a great film. By far my favorite thing we've watched in the series. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. It's a great movie.
Yeah, it's a really badass movie, guys. And if you also don't know, this is the direct inspiration for Kill Bill. Yeah. And even in Kill Bill, there are some homages. Well, you might say
snow and blood
homages, but there are like Tarantino just literally recreates the end of this movie in Kill Bill, like just does it. He just
the whole chapters thing. The chapters thing. We're like, how unique! You put chapters in your movie.
The targets.
I've only seen chapters in a book before. Oh. But how about we actually do the chapters thing, but we make it actually make sense with the movie, because it's incorporated into the story why things are being presented in chapters in the first place. Like it's this movie for sure. And I was never a big Kill Bill fan. I'm not a big Tarantino fan in general, but this movie, if you do like Kill Bill, will make you like Kill Bill less, because when you watch Lady Snowblood, you realize just how much of a fan fiction knockoff Kill Bill was of this movie. And that's not to say that Kill Bill is terrible. I think there's a lot of great visuals in Kill Bill. I think the acting is very, very good in Kill Bill. But this movie just kind of is better in almost every conceivable way. So sorry, Kill Bill fans. There's a better version that was made much, much earlier than Kill Bill called Lady Snowblood. But now, if you don't know about it, you can go watch it. It's great. This is a part where you say, you're absolutely right, DoA. Kill Bill was kind of trashy schlock compared to Lady Snowblood, the original better version of this.
I agree that this is the better version of Kill Bill, the original one. I still enjoy Kill Bill because it is a pastiche of a variety of different genres, but overwhelmingly, I think the single biggest influence on Kill Bill is Lady Snowblood, and you will see that. And the reason why we're giving it as part of the inspiration of Ghost of Yōtei arc is it is also most likely going to be a direct inspiration for the game, because we are dealing with a female revenge story. And also, we are dealing with a female revenge story that has particular targets, because the whole premise of the game is that Atsu, the main character, is hunting down the Yōtei 6 who killed her family, from what we know of the story of the game so far. She was a child. They attempted to kill her as well. She survived and is now back as an adult, hunting down those people who harmed her. So briefly, how this connects to Lady Snowblood is that this is also a female warrior revenge story with a list of targets. However, the main character, the titular Lady Snowblood, was not the one wrong. It was, in fact, her mother, who gave birth to her in a female prison after not her father, let's be very clear, her mother's former husband was murdered by a group of ne'er-do-wells on his way to a village to become a school teacher. There was a plot to basically take money from the local peasants who were lied to that they would avoid a military conscription if they paid these 4 ne'er-do-wells. And so in order to conceal that plot, they wanted to make sure that the foreigner school teacher didn't get in and tell them that, in fact, they could not pay money to not be conscripted into the military, that was, in fact, a lie generated to part them from their wealth. So Lady Snowblood grows up, her mother dies in childbirth, and she is trained by a Buddhist monk in very harsh ways in the martial
hilarious
arts.
ways, really. I mean,
hilarious.
It does have the most hilarious martial arts training I think I've ever seen in a movie.
Which involves putting like a 9-year-old girl in a barrel and rolling her down a hill. And then punishing her if she falls out.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, he puts her in a barrel and then he rolls the barrel down a bumpy hill, and if she falls out, she's punished. And you're like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. He's like, you see this kid like roll down a hill in a barrel over and over again. But then you're like, it kind of makes sense, because in the insanity of like combat, you're going to be thrown around, you're going to be punched, you're going to be flipping around. And so like to be able to, be disoriented and recover very quickly is actually like a core skill of what she's trying to do. So after a while, you're like, maybe rolling someone down the hill in a barrel is actually a good idea for this. I'm not going to recommend it. But when you really stop and think about it, you're like, if you get really good at being rolled down the hill in a barrel, you probably are going to be good at recovering from like being punched or disoriented or thrown off of something really quickly. And that's a great skill if you're an assassin. So it kind of makes you appreciate it towards the end.
You have a daughter, so you can test this theory.
Who I already have, and she's doing really good. She's makes it most of the way down the hill right now. She's really ahead of where Lady Snowblood was, actually. And she doesn't even need to get revenge on anyone. Maybe me, but not really, any criminals. Maybe me, but we're not going to worry about that till later.
You're just preparing her for to avenge your inevitable murder, DoA. It's fine.
Spoiler alert.
She'll be ready.
That's right. She'll be my vengeance.
So her name is Yuki. Within this, so she's known as Lady Snowblood. Her real name is Yuki, and she grows up and begins to hunt down methodically the people who killed her. Again, not her father. It's kind of unclear who her father actually is.
It doesn't really matter, because her mom just basically wanted to create an offspring to carry on her vengeance. So it doesn't really matter who her father is in that sense, right? In a story sense.
So she hunts down the people who harmed her mother, and they are various lowlives involved in gambling or organized crime. And over time, she, while looking very demure and coy as a Japanese woman of the period, she, in fact, this is in 1874, so it's post-Meiji Restoration, by the way, just after the Meiji Restoration. And she hunts them down, kills them all, and collapses on the snow at the end, only to open her eyes for the sequel.
Yes,
there is a sequel to this film, which I've never
but,
seen.
But I love it. Do we talk about the ending first? Should we do? Because I really love the ending of this movie.
Sure.
But we don't need it. Let's talk about the ending when we get there. Let's get there first. So, I think the first thing I want to talk about is the chapter usage in this, because we see the exact same thing done in Kill Bill, right? Where the movie, the two movies in Kill Bill are divided by chapters with titles and all that, kind of referencing what's coming up. And you know, it can be sort of seen as like in Kill Bill as like, ooh, what an artsy way to construct your film. Although, you know, plenty of films have used the chapter breaks, you know, throughout the decades. But this one, there's actually like a direct story tie-in, because you find out over the course of the movie that her story is actually being written by this comic artist in a newspaper, and these are the chapters he's giving to the story. So we're also kind of seeing the story through this artist's eyes to a certain extent too, you know? So when you get to that, you're like, oh, that's so cool. Like the chapters seem like, you know, overblown and over dramatic and all that, because it's like there's a story being written about her at the same time as all this is happening, you know? So I thought that was really great that there was actually an in-universe reason for the chapter breaks versus just thrown in there to be different, you know?
Yeah, and it obviously comes from a manga as well.
Yeah.
So this was originally a manga, so it becomes almost meta in that because it comes from the manga, it's almost like the movie is saying that this is the reflection of a true course of events, and the manga comes from the guy who's writing the story within the film. So it's fun. It's fun that it plays with all these concepts, and it definitely does a lot of things that manga would do, and that we would, you know, are very stylized, like we might see, for example, in Kill Bill, which is like when the target's heads come up, you know, it like freezes on them and highlights them, put their names up there. It's great, right? So a lot of times this film will take shots from manga and then to put them in a heavily stylized manner, which, if you remember, this is a film from the early 70s. This is really revolutionary. At that time, I think.
Well, the very first scene, there's a lot of scenes that are out there, you know, in nature or out there, you know, on location. But the first scene, I'm pretty sure, was all filmed on a soundstage, because there's the immediate scenery around the characters, and then it's just black, right? And so the first scene even is by construction made to look very much like a black and white, you know, manga panel, you know? And then we sort of transition from this into more of a, you know, regular on location kind of filming style. So I thought they did a really interesting job of kind of presenting us a very comic book opening and then transitioning into more of a film look to it too, to sort of like take us from, hey, we know this is a comic book, so we're going to start it like a comic book, and then we're going to go into, you know, a film, right? I thought that was a really smart way to do it too. And this movie is just filled with little things like that, that if you watch for it, you're like, man, this is just one of the best constructed movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, and you know, this is also directly pulled into Ghost of Tsushima, and we assume will also be a part of Ghost of Yōtei, which is that when you start a quest and when you end a quest, you get the text on the screen in Japanese with the translation underneath. It doesn't say chapter, but it's like the text of the quest title, and kind of it's not a freeze frame, because like elements will be moving, like the wind will be blowing stuff around, but effectively you get what is a cinematic manga panel of a scene in order to enjoy for a few seconds before you go back into the full motion of the game, which I think is one of the best parts of the game in terms of how they present it cinematically. And it's very much drawn from Lady Snowblood.
Yeah.
And also on that point, DoA, about how it becomes more manga-like, there are times that there's some very weird camera work that's done that's really effective, such as, you know, they'll zoom in on part of the background to like show somebody's eyes watching in a way that you would never see in a conventional film, but feels like, okay, we're transitioning to the next manga pane where we have this scene, and then the next panel is, a close-up of somebody's eyes to show you that they're watching the scene that's unfolding in the room. And it's great. It's really fun.
When they do the snow in this movie too, they do it really, really great as well. It almost reminds me of like Sin City, the Frank Miller, right, film from like the mid 2000s, I think it was, where you have, these big, obviously fake flakes of snow, like big pieces of paper or something like that, but they're like, bottom lit, so they really stand out on like a black background, and then they do all sorts of things like turn them red, that kind of stuff for Snowblood, right? But to make it really stand out is really effective in the scenes that they use it in this movie. And I mean that specific thing too, obviously there's a very famous fight scene in Kill Bill in the snow, which I feel like is kind of an homage to this whole thing.
Oh, it's a direct rip. I mean, we can talk about that. I mean, the fight that happens with Lady Snowblood is basically Tarantino just takes the O-Ren Ishii fight sequence between the bride and O-Ren in Kill Bill Volume 1, puts it in the same snow setting. O-Ren dies, and we can side by side this, I'm sure. Thank you, Adadian, our editor, where she's curled up in the snow, dead. I mean, Lady Snowblood isn't dead, but O-Ren is, right? Curled up in the snow, ostensibly dead, while the camera pans out. And there's the song. He literally takes the song, The Flower of Carnage, which is used at the beginning of Lady Snowblood. It's the theme song to Lady Snowblood and is used in the ending scene, and puts it in Kill Bill. So same shot, same music, obvious homage. Tarantino loved this movie. And what's cool too is that Meiko Kaji, the actress who plays Lady Snowblood, sings that song. So they had the actual actress sing the track that kind of makes the film. But if you've seen Kill Bill, the instant Lady Snowblood starts, you will recognize that music because it's so iconic and it's so good.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously, like we said in the beginning, there's no secret, but I just, again, if you love Kill Bill and you haven't seen this is going to make Kill Bill look worse. It just does. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about Meiko Kaji. Like, what a fantastic, acting job she did, because it's a lot of people would, I think, take this role and just sort of be like, I am the passionless killer, but she's able to switch from that to a real normal emotional human being when the need calls for it, right? And so it really gives the character a lot of depth, I think, that a lot of revenge protagonists don't have, where the character is so interesting in that, again, she wasn't the person who was directly wronged. She is the daughter of the person who was wronged, who is carrying on the vengeance, right? Which, you want justice to a certain extent, right, as the viewer, but you also kind of want Lady Snowblood to, finish her quest and be able to just escape this life, right? It is kind of a curse that she's born into too, to have to suffer through this awful training to become this killer and all that. And so throughout the course of the movie, Meiko Kaji is able to take some of the, non-assassin scenes and really show us that there's like a normal human being underneath all of this that also is kind of trapped in this vengeance sort of quest, which again, I think makes the ending great, because we'll just jump to that real quick now, I guess, where at the ending, she's been shot, she's been stabbed, she's crawling along. You're like, is she going to live? Is she going to die? But she collapses and she just screams and starts to cry. And you're like, it's this big emotional release of this person who's had to live this life of violence and vengeance for her mother, who she never even knew. And now it's over, and she's just kind of letting it all go, And so it's a really great moment where this character just gets to be human again, and then you're like, well, does she live? And I was really rooting for her to live, because it's like, well, now she can kind of, hopefully go on to live a normal life and be at peace. And I know there's sequels where I'm sure it's not all about her peaceful life, but in my head canon, I don't want to watch any of the other sequels for this. I want to just imagine her getting to go off and live a happy life after this, So again, going back to Meiko Kaji, crushes it as the, passionless assassin, but only by necessity, and underneath there's a real human being that's always, longed for a normal life, So I think
that's a difficult
romance
balance arc. does have a romance arc with the writer of her story as well. Like, you know, there is romantic tension there. And she finds out later that he's actually the son of one of her targets that wronged her mother. But he himself has more or less disavowed his father and, you know,
and thought he was dead.
Dies killing him.
I mean, yeah. Well, first of all, he thought his father was dead. And then when he comes back, he's like, oh, you're not dead. And then he immediately sets to work helping her kill him. So, you know. So I feel like it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But there are all these really, I think, interesting, almost soap opera elements that are introduced.
Yeah.
But everything is so stylized that it's kind of forgiven in this sense, because it's very clear that this is a larger than life story. And because it feels like a graphic novel in the same way that 300 or Sin City or Kill Bill feel like graphic novels, I think it's much easier to forgive its excesses because it's so hyper real in the first place that it's not trying to be realistic.
Yeah, it's like it's melodramatic by design, you know.
Yeah.
I mean,
even the violence is incredibly stylized. Like the blood is almost pink. It's too red. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
the violence is completely over the top. I mean, she cuts a woman in half who's hanging, and then just blood just sprays out of the bottom. It's great.
That scene, I was like, because so one of her targets hangs herself before she can get to her, you know, and knows she's caught, knows she's doomed, and just, you know, takes the vengeance away from her. And so Lady Snowblood's just mad, and I was like, she's standing there in front of the hanging, you know, corpse of her target, and I was in my mind, I'm kind of like, oh, it'd be sick if she like just cut her in half or something right now, and then she does it, and I was like, yeah, she did, they actually did it, yeah. So that was, you know, and it's kind of a goofy effect, right? But like, it's awesome at the same time too. It's just so over the top, and you know, I don't mind that stuff if it's by design and it's just consistent throughout, you know. And part of it too is you know, although the writer character, the manga writer character dies at the end of the movie, you kind of wonder after you find out that it's him writing all this stuff, you're like, okay, so how much of this was real and how much of this has been kind of embellished by him? Are we seeing his version of events through his story, or are we really seeing what happened? And, you know, we find out he's just sort of involved in it. So I think there's like a little bit of ambiguity there that lends more allowance to the over-the-top nature of everything too. So I like that you've got that aspect to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, this definitely falls into one, again, you know, very violent, just like the games, just like a lot of the samurai epics. I mean, I don't think like Throne of Blood from Kurosawa wasn't that violent, but we get the kind of gushing blood fountain samurai trope from Kurosawa because he started that in Sanjuro, his movie. Allegedly, although this has been kind of debunked, allegedly because of a prop malfunction where it just sprayed too much blood. But I think that's been pretty thoroughly debunked by Kurosawa and other people that they actually did intend to do that. But this was something that they, regardless of intention, they chose to keep in Sanjuro after taking the shot. And so it has now become, you know, an entrenched trope by this period. And then later, of course, will influence every, you know, bloody anime. It influences Ninja Scroll and Akira and, you know, all, and then also continues in the real films, which is why we get Miike and 13 Assassins doing exactly the same thing. So it becomes a feature more or less of particularly samurai cinema, but also, you know, anime and in other genres.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because like some people, you know, see that and they're like, oh, hyper violent, it's too much. And I'm like, I don't know. Have you seen Monty Python? Like they do the same type of like blood spraying, violent kind of stuff too. And it's just meant to be over the top. You know, it's not meant to be taken as realistic violence. You know, it's done for, you know, storytelling effect. So I've never seen it as ultra violent. Even I've always just seen it as sort of a more, you know, more a story element. You know, but this movie does a great job of using it. You know, especially with the way that the movie uses color, right? Because it has such a big range of color usage where it goes from very, very minimal to pretty much just black, white, and red. two just extremely colorful scenes, like the party at the end that she goes to that has all the, Western dignitaries and everything, and there's just every color of the rainbow there. And so it really, again, for a movie in the 70s, I think really does a great job of just kind of being visually very like pleasing in terms of just the wide range of how it uses color.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful film to look at. The lighting is great. The way they frame the shots, particularly around Lady Snowblood's face, where you get the contrast of her white skin with the different colors of makeup and the bright colored clothing that she's wearing. Like it really is lovely to look at this.
Yeah, definitely. And all the fight, I think all the combat stuff is like very creatively designed too. You get a lot of these interesting scenarios, right? Where at the end, the main bad guy, the one she's finally trying to track down, is like on a balcony across the room from the balcony that she's on, but his son is kind of like holding him at, knife point to try to like buy time for her to get over to him. But there's a party going on down below them. You get these really interesting little scenarios where in the moment you're like, well, how's she going to get out of this one? How's she going to capitalize on this? And so it's almost a little bit, it's the same kind of enjoyment you get out of seeing Indiana Jones get put in these situations where they just come out of nowhere and they look untenable and they're just kind of inconvenient for what the hero's trying to do. And I think that type of thing adds so much to, action elements in movies like this. And they do a good job throwing those in there too.
And also, you see wuxia elements in this too, which add to the supernatural abilities of Lady Snowblood. And I think a lot of Westerners were first introduced to wuxia, which is a Chinese genre, with things like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, or House of Flying Daggers, or Hero, these movies that ended up being very big in the West. But of course, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, very famous for people flying around in bamboo trees, right? And Lady Snowblood defies gravity. Yeah. The wire work. And Lady Snowblood is defying gravity at times, right? She is superhuman in this. But the fact is that wuxia had been going for decades and decades and decades in China before those films were released. And the early 70s were very important for wuxia films overall. And certainly I would think that some of these films were making their way over to Japan, particularly some of the more famous ones, that like the ones that were directed by King Hu, and Touch of Zen, which is maybe the best wuxia film ever, came out in 1971, so 2 years before Lady Snowblood. And these are the kind of movies that I think probably also inspired the action sequences and the kind of mythological movements, the supernatural movements of Lady Snowblood, because these were happening in the 50s, 60s, 70s in Chinese cinema. And there would have been some level of cross-pollination there, and the superhero martial artist, right? The noble superhero martial artist. So this is also, of course, directly related to the Ghost games, where you have these supernatural powers. And you also, I think, have unconventional weapons in these, right? There's weapons of deception that are used by the characters, or you seem innocuous in a costume and then launch a surprise attack like Lady Snowblood does, right? She uses her femininity to her advantage, which, look, we're being honest, wouldn't we all be shocked if there isn't a mission in Ghost of Yōtei where you have to dress up as a geisha to like get close to a target? Like, surely they will do that, right? Surely.
It's a common trope, across many, many games over time. Final Fantasy VII even had that,
Exactly.
in a way. So
in a way.
Yeah. So,
Cloud.
Of course.
Shout out to Cloud.
Of course, yeah. He looked great. But yeah, so I think it's very likely. But again, it's, if you're an assassin, you got to use all the, tools in the toolbox as far as infiltrating and getting close to your target. So, yeah.
I also want to talk about the music in Lady Snowblood, because outside of that theme song, Flower of Carnage, it has some very 1970s like funk tracks that are in it. Where
it does jazz, it does funk, it's all over the place, but great. In a good way. Yeah.
Like you'll be like vibing with the music in this as you watch it, because even though it's anachronistic in terms of the time period in which the film is set, it's very 70s in its feel, and it's still cool, right? And it gives you a really good vibe. And I also wonder, DoA, we are going to be doing Samurai Champloo, but did this inspire Watanabe with Cowboy Bebop is like a big question that I would have.
I was going to bring that up, actually, that I think blending different genres of music in with your action, or in this case, samurai action kind of. I think it's I think yeah, there's definitely some influence there because this movie doesn't, it uses music pretty sparingly, honestly. There's plenty of scenes without any music at all. But when it does use music, it really fits perfectly. Like when you have the writer kind of working on his book, it's like jazz and all that. And then you have, like you said, funk at the end when you're running into the most modern, aspect of, what she's running into, where now she's up against, Western influences and guns and things like that, So the use of music is great in this movie because it doesn't feel tied down to using music that was only available during that era, right? It kind of jumps around a little bit, but I think that's great. I mean, that that approach to music and film isn't any different from John Williams deciding to go for all classical music in Star Wars, right? That's you think about it, that music doesn't match the genre, 1-to-1, but it just works perfectly, right? So I think it's just another point in this movie's favor that it doesn't feel constrained in the genres of music it uses.
Yeah, and I think that's another takeaway that makes it feel like a much more, this contemporary piece of cinema, right? Because we wouldn't, for example, like all the different musical genres and nods that Kill Bill does. The Kill Bill soundtrack is great, right? And it's great because it feels like Quentin Tarantino is a DJ who is pulling from all these different eras and all the things that he's referencing, and it's really good. And it includes pieces of this soundtrack that are used really, really well in Kill Bill. But I hadn't seen this in a long time, but I was blown away by just how modern this movie feels. Yeah. For something that was made in the early 70s, it's like light years ahead of everything else from an artistic standpoint. This is a film that we really wouldn't see in the West until the Frank Miller adaptations or Kill Bill. And it's wild that it would have taken 30, 40 years for some of this to make its way over.
Right. I mean, for, a couple of people that wanted to do an adaptation of a friend's manga, it really is incredible. Like the pacing is so tight and the storytelling is like so crisp.
It's 90 minutes long, this movie.
It does not
a lot happens in those 90 minutes.
It doesn't waste a single second, especially on something like Bulls on Fire, running down people in a city. It doesn't waste a single moment. There's not a single like frame of film that you don't want to see in this movie. It is so concise and economical. It is, and all that stuff together really, is why I say this is one of the best movies I've ever seen, because I just have zero complaints about it. I honestly, I think it's everything is so well written. Like there's no loose ends, there's no holes there, there's everything. It makes sense. There's a reason for everything that happens story wise, as sometimes, uncomfortable and brutal as it is, it all makes sense. It moves along so fast. There's no extra violence, but it doesn't shy away from the violence it needs to use for the story. The music is great and it's used exactly the right times and they use exactly the right genres. It's just, visually it's perfect. Like it's what a great movie, And so maybe this one just struck me more than most people, but I just think it's legit. I think it's one of the best movies I've ever seen.
It was just so far ahead of its time. I think
it's so far ahead of movies in this time.
Yeah. They really just figured out how to tell a great story and use the appropriate tools that the manga gives them to make something just incredibly slick, incredibly stylized, that has held up so very well to this day. Yeah. Like it has the charm of the 70s without feeling old, right? You could easily see this being made in the style of the 70s today, and it would still be a great movie. Like if you just remade this film shot for shot, it would still be awesome and released it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what Kill Bill did in a way.
Again,
obviously I'm joking, guys. There are a lot of other really good references in Kill Bill, and it is an evolution of this genre, but this original one just goes to show how much of the bones of that already existed decades before that movie.
I know a lot of people
released.
Like Kill Bill, and they're going to be upset at us saying bad things about Kill Bill, but like Kill Bill just, it feels so bloated compared to this movie, you know. But hey, if you like Kill Bill, more power to you. Enjoy it. There's plenty of things to like about Kill Bill. Like I said, there's some things I like about it too.
Well,
and I'm not the world's biggest Tarantino fan to begin with, so I'm carrying that into my viewings of Kill Bill as well. But this movie is just, there's a reason why it inspired Kill Bill. It's because it's just such a great, you know, a great display of the genre, you know?
Indeed. So definitely watch this one. If you haven't seen this movie, this one is 100% worth watching. And
Yeah.
considering it is 96 minutes long, it is a really good use of your time. You're not going to be bored at any point. It takes you on this roller coaster ride real fast, and it is a nice, tight package. I do want to bring up another idea, DoA, because people were talking about this in the comments. So if you guys want to hear more about this, I will put this out there, DoA. If you guys like this content, there is a new Mortal Kombat movie coming out in October.
Yes, there is.
I was going to say, the Mortal Kombat Inspirations arc would also be fire. Just going to put that out there.
We could just watch all the other Mortal Kombat movies too.
No, we could do that too. I mean, part of that
Get
would
ready for
obviously
Annihilation.
be part of it. But the Mortal Kombat Inspirations would actually include some really good movies like Enter the Dragon, Bloodsport. Well, Bloodsport's not a really good movie, but it's fun. Enter the Dragon is legitimately a really good movie.
That's a good movie. We love Bruce Lee, of course.
The martial arts tournament movies would be fun. I think a fun path to go down, potentially. Because like Mortal Kombat, another game franchise that has been very heavily influenced by cinema, to the degree that they just eventually started just putting movie characters in the games itself, including Schwarzenegger as Arnold, as Conan the Barbarian. Right?
I don't endorse this, by the way.
Freddy Krueger, the killer from Scream, the ghost from Scream.
Wasn't like
there've been a lot
the
of
bad
movie
guy from
characters
Immortal in there or
games.
something like that?
Homelander's in there now.
Yeah, Homelander, and then what's the cartoon? What's the cartoon with the kid and his dad is like the bad guy? It's a superhero thing.
Invincible.
Yeah. Isn't the
yes?
Yeah, that, not Invincible, but his dad is in there. Yeah. Whatever. I haven't been quite as interested in Mortal Kombat games since they stopped using real actors to portray the characters in the game. That was the peak.
That was a long time ago.
That was the peak of Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. I'm sorry. Like I know MK1 was a great fighting game. I acknowledge that. But like there's just something about seeing the stop motion actors. In fact, when I was in college even, I was so in love with like the fact that they use real actors to portray the characters in this fighting game in the original 3 Mortal Kombat games that I was in a Flash programming class. Anybody remember Flash? Didn't turn out that class wasn't the most useful thing I ever took, but in it, I created a Flash game that was a Mortal Kombat parody basically, and I filmed like hours of one of my professors and one of my friends doing fighting moves or trying to do fighting moves in front of a green screen, and then I went and painstakingly in 2003, I think this was, or 2, edited out the green screen backgrounds and put like put this all together to make a non-playable but visually a visual feast demo in the Mortal Kombat style. I'll have to find it and link it, but it's great. I even did the voices.
Also, I will bring this up about the Mortal Kombat Inspirations arc. I know you've been dying to do Big Trouble in Little China. That's Raiden, man. That is Raiden. That is where they got Raiden from. 100%.
Well, it's a great movie. It's been done to death on the internet, but I wouldn't mind talking about it, because it's always fun to talk about Big Trouble in Little China. One of my favorite films.
I don't think you could get away from the more that clearly was a direct inspiration for Raiden in Mortal Kombat. So as far as Enter the Dragon, Bloodsport, Big Trouble in Little China, we got a pretty like sick group of films here to watch potentially.
I'm down.
A Mortal Kombat Inspirations arc, if you guys are into that. So let us know.
And we have to watch the original Mortal Kombat 90s film too.
Of course.
Great. Well, great in a not great way movie.
I also thought that the most recent Mortal Kombat movie was pretty good.
Okay.
Like,
so it was a fine action movie.
It's good for what it is.
I watched it on your recommendation. I thought it was fine. You know, we watched it, or you recommend I watch it because it has multiple actors from the Shogun show in it, which was kind of funny to see them in these roles. But it's like Scorpion and Raiden, I think it was. But yeah, it was fun. It was fun. But there's just something about the goofy honesty of the 1990s Mortal Kombat film that
I mean, how do you feel about Carl Urban being Johnny Cage in the upcoming Mortal Kombat sequel?
Honestly, not so great. And I've always liked Carl Urban as an actor, but the trailers are not filling me with joy. We'll put it that way.
All right. Well, you guys let us know. Probably the inspirations for Mortal Kombat will be much better and more fun movies than the actual Mortal Kombat movies. But,
probably less good movies than the ones we're watching for this game tie-in.
I don't know, man. Enter the Dragon's really good.
Yeah, Big Trouble in Little China is really good too, but in a cult classic way. Good. Whereas, again, Lady Snowblood is great in just like a great film way. So go watch it.
Yeah, it's certainly not going to be Lady Snowblood or Kurosawa, levels, right?
Probably not. No.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching. We are going to be doing Samurai Champloo, the first 13 episodes. We're going to do 2 shows on Samurai Champloo in 13 episode chunks because of the Watanabe mode that they are introducing, where you can listen to lo-fi beats as you ride your horse.
That's how I'm going to play the
game around Hokkaido.
I'm telling you, that Watanabe mode is that's my mode. Already decided.
So, and also what's cool is that they collaborated directly with Watanabe. So he was curating the lo-fi beats playlist.
It's just too bad Nujabes is gone. I mean, rest in peace, Nujabes.
For many
reasons,
right?
Yeah, I mean, well, he's gone. He's passed away. But like, which is too bad because he did a fantastic soundtrack for Samurai Champloo. So, would have been great if he was still kicking it to do some more stuff for this. So.
And I haven't seen Samurai Champloo since it was released.
Me too.
So
yeah, same.
I'm actually really interested to go back to this because I've seen Cowboy Bebop many times since it was released, but I only watched Samurai Champloo once, and it was 20 years ago.
I'm in the same boat. I remember thinking it was like decent, but kind of mid. So we'll see how I feel now going back 15, 20 years later at this point. It's going to be fun.
Yep. So we'll see you guys next week for another episode, this time on anime, which you guys always want us to do. So enjoy.
There you go.
Bye.